Hey guys, Aardvark85 here, and it's time for a assembly video. We haven't done one of these in a while, but what we're going to be looking at in this video series is how to build the Tau Forge World Manta, the monster 3-foot wide, long or whatever width super vehicle that the Tau use. I was lucky enough to score this one on eBay. And it's Tau vehicle number 77. It was the 77th Manta ever produced. And the good thing about that is that, how these, when they build these molds to have the aircraft, to whatever model that they're building, eventually over time the molds start becoming a little worn. And so your quality of your parts is pretty well degraded. But what's good for me is the fact that I've done a lot of dry fitting of the parts already, and it appears to me that we've got some really a good production model of the Manta that's going to require just a little bit, and there's the cat, a little bit of sanding and filing, but for the most part, it's going to be good to go. There's going to be not a lot of major sanding and things to be done. So, what I want to do here in the beginning is talk about the preparation. This first video is going to deal all about how to prepare the model. We're going to look at doing the inventory, we lay the parts out, and then we look at how to clean it up, how to get the parts off the gates, and how to get the mold release off of the kit. Because how this works is there are these giant molds that they have, and they pour the resin in, and then what it does is it leaves these little attachments to it, and these are called gates, and those all have to be clipped off without damaging the model. And then you have to take it from that point. Once you have it all all gate free, you turn around and then you take it, and you have to find a way to get the mold release off. And I'll be honest with you, for this model, I have been struggling with the mold release, on my usual steps that I do, which is purple power. We'll look at some purple power, what it looks like in the jug and all. Haven't worked as effectively. We've actually just gone to Dawn degreaser concentrated, and we've been scrubbing the crap out of the models. So, but let's take a look at some of the tools that we're going to be using while we're doing this. First of all, we've got our heat gun. Sometimes when parts are just a little warped, a little out of shape, you can hit them with the heat gun, and then you can bend them back into shape. Now, also, people like to use water. They get warm water or hot water, and they put the part in there. I just haven't had a lot of luck with that, and therefore I like to use the heat gun very strategically. You have to keep checking it, and then you don't want to overheat it. We've got our Dremel tool with the sanding attachment. This will be coming in very handy. We've got our GW seam scraper. Believe it or not, this is good for help cleaning up the model parts. For the big sanding jobs, I actually have a big old honking sander. This is the mouse sander, and it will actually get the work done. You gotta be very careful because you don't want to do too much. You do too much, and there's no way to come back. So always, as I say, with Forge World resin, you want to dry fit everything. Dry fit it as best as you can to make it fit without going over. Sometimes you'll end up using plastic card to fill your gaps that you've made, and that's okay, because if you go back to some of my previous videos, we talked about just how to do that. Things that you're going to need also, you're going to need super glue. I have a couple varieties, a big gel variety and a thin variety. I also have on the table regular old super glue. And we also have our tubes of JB Weld that we will, you'll see us mixing and using as we go along. Also, got my iPad for a quick reference to the internet. There are a couple of builds of the Manta out there, so maybe you need some quick reference. I mainly use it for podcasts. While I'm sitting here doing my modeling, I like to listen to our podcast, which is South Mississippi Wargaming. I like to listen to Independent Characters. They're getting ready to sign off the air. But there are several other podcasts out there I'll listen to while I'm doing my hobby stuff. So let's take a look right now. This is an earlier video that I did, inventorying the parts, and it's a good layout video. That's why I'm going to use it again, of how to look at the parts, or how to lay out your parts. Basically, when you get something from Forge World, you have to do an inspection. The parts might be warped, they might be miscast, they might be somehow broken in transit or whatever. Forge World is really good about getting back with you for replacement parts. You just have to send them a photo of the broken part, and then probably a copy of your receipt, and then they'll send you the parts that you need. Being I bought this on eBay, if there are any broken parts, we're probably going to be scratch building our replacements. So let's go ahead and take a look at that video. All right, guys, check this out. What we have here is the unboxed and put on the table Tau Manta. What you're looking at right now is the center piece, the main body with the wings. This thing is 3 feet wide when it's all put together, made out of solid resin. So all those, the wing spars you see there, total solid resin, along with the slats that go there. Actually, this crew compartment, which there's the nose piece, that crew compartment right there, it holds like 40 Fire Warriors, is what goes into that void in between. And then underneath, there's this huge shelf that holds 4 hammerheads or 4 devilfish variants. And what I did was I just put this in here. This is a tiger shark. This is one of the Forge World pieces. But just to get you a size idea of how big this is, this piece right here is a shelf. And it'll sit underneath. All this will be cut off and sanded down. Right here we have the top that goes on, to the centerpiece over there. And there's just a ton of stuff. So what we're going to do is soon we'll start stripping off all the parts, off all the resin dams and all that such, and we'll be getting them ready for painting and assembly. Here you have tons of small parts in the boxes. Right here we have the long barrel burst cannons. There's a whole bunch of them. These are the Fire Warriors. You can see them all sitting in there with their guns and a few drones and stuff. Over here, these are miscellaneous parts and some Forge World crisis suit legs and such. Those are always good to have. And then here we have big parts for the outside. This whole box right here contains the devilfish, 8 crisis suits, and all the parts that you need to make those happen. A whole bunch of drones and such. So that's what we're going to be doing here in the next couple months. We're going to be building this here project. We're going to break it down into several little videos, so that you can enjoy the build. I know that Blue Table Painting has a couple of videos out there of ones that they've built, but of course they don't show you how they put it together. And there's one guy on DACA who actually put one together and took several pictures. So this is what I'll be putting together. This is the largest model that Forge World puts out. And it's going to be a challenge, but it's also going to be a lot of fun to watch go together. So, stay tuned. All right, guys, that was the video on inventorying the parts, and now you can see what kind of a task we're up against. The next thing we're going to look at are removing the gates. And if you take a look at this part here, this is the actual part of the model, right? And these are where they poured the resin in to make it work. And so to make the mold fill up. And all these have to come off. And so sometimes they're as small as this. Sometimes you get a little part and there's like 3 or 4 guys on it. Sometimes they're as big as this or bigger. There's many bigger ones in this kit, and we're gonna watch me take one apart here in just a second. This is what your parts look like on the gate, and you have to have the right tool to cut these things off. So for something like this, your snips would be appropriate. For something that's big, you may have to resort to a saw, such as this, or actually even the power Dremel, which you're going to see me using here in just a second on some big parts. The important thing to remember is that this is going to be a dirty process. There's going to be dust everywhere. So make sure that you have a open area. You know, if you're going to be using some electric tools like the Dremels, you want to make sure that you've got a mask on so that you're not breathing in this stuff. Because as you see in the video that follows, the dust flies a lot when you get to using the corded power Dremel. So what I do here in the garage is I actually have a mask that I wear. I have fans going to circulate the air out, and then when I'm done, I'll pop the garage door and I'll blow all the dust out as best I can. There's dust still everywhere, but for the most part, it works. And if you can look right here, this is only when I was done with the table. I scraped this off the table. This is just a little part of the resin that was flown in the air, as I was working on this model, and the rest of it is just all over the garage. So don't do this in your kitchen, is what I'm trying to tell you. All right, let's go ahead. The important thing to remember this is that you have to examine the model because of the fact that you don't want to be cutting off parts that are important to assembly. And you'll see later on there's a part that got clipped off. It was actually a miscast. And it's kind of important to the outcome of the model, but I'll show you that in a later video. And that's that. So let's take a look at me cutting off some of the gates off of the models, and we'll do a little voiceover, and I'll tell you what I'm doing as we go. Again, wear a mask, be safe, and let's check that out. All right, guys, here we go. This is the setup that I use. I have my powered trimmer tool. The difference between the powered one and the battery one is that this one is a lot stronger. So you'll see me putting on my glasses so I can see what I'm doing. I've also got my mask on, and the reason why there's no regular audio is the fact that that Dremel is loud. So here I'm just taking a few test cuts. I have a cutting blade on there, and as you can see, it's doing pretty handy work of all these gates. And these cutting gates, or the cutting tools, they come in different sizes and stuff. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make notches in all of the gates so that we can possibly break them off or use the saw later on. But if you tried to cut these with the saw, you'd be here all day. You could see the dust that's flying off of these, and that's why I recommended that you wear a mask, and some eye protection, because you never know when a little chunk is going to fly off. That is straight up resin. If you listen to the internet, that's toxic, cancerous, super stuff. GW says no. I'm not taking any chances, so I make sure I use the mask. But this is how we get rid of the gates right here. We're just going to clip them, continue to cut them from one to the other. You got to be careful, mindful of your fingers and stuff, that you don't get cut by the old Dremel there. And then, this is what we do. We just keep on cutting through these, and then we will we'll snap them off. So let me pause right here. We'll advance the video a little bit, and then we will pick up on this in a few seconds. Okay, here we go. We're a few seconds into the video now, and we're really getting down to it. I'm laying the Dremel in there and cutting the gates pretty seriously. Now, like I said before, all that dust is going to be flying up. You can see some little parts of things flying off, so you just have to be mindful. I really feel like I have good control over the Dremel at this point, but you don't want any surprises. I mean, it is a power tool after all. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the other side, and we're going to cut, because each one of these cuts is only cutting about halfway through. So we want to make it to where we can break that off and get down to the finer parts, get the big gate out the way so that we can, get in there and remove some of that stuff. Because we're going to eventually end up having to break out the sander and knocking it out. Whoop, there you go. See, the tip just broke off. Nice. Let's see. Me and my big muscles aren't able to pop that thing off quite yet. So we're going to, see what we can do. There you go. You can see me. I wasn't lying. I was wearing my mask. And Now we're going to take a break till I come back after fixing the Dremel. Alright guys, so here I am trying to figure out how to do, and what I do is I grab my jeweler saw, a little hobby saw that you can get at any hobby shop, and I'm going to go in and just finish cutting through those parts where the Dremel didn't make the connection, you know, where the Dremel didn't cut all the way through the resin, and that way I can then just pop that part off, and we'll see that process work out here in a second. The you know, working with resin is a little bit more challenging than working with plastic, in that you know, it's not very forgiving if you make mistakes. You know, if you mar the plastic, or if you mar you know, there's a good chance that you could fill it with super glue and sand it flat and you'll be good to go. But if you mess something up on the resin, you know, you snap one of those pieces. If you remember back to my Thunderhawk video, I actually snapped the Thunderhawk in two. But it actually worked out to my benefit in that case. But sometimes there's little delicate parts that if you snap, it's going to be really difficult to get them back together. You know, there we go. Boom. It's off. And now we're left with these little gates that we're going to need to go back and clean up. Okay, now armed with a new cutting tool, I'm going to go back and get the little nubs that we left from the gates. And the best thing about this, I could say, is that the more of this you can, the more of these you can cut off now, the more sanding you'll save yourself later. And you'll see later on in construction, as it turns out, that this part is actually a little warped, and we're going to have to do some plasticard rebuilding around it, because this ends up being one of the main parts of the body, and it's got just a little bit of a warp to it. But since it's so thick, and I bet this thing weighs every bit of 8 to 10 pounds, you know, since it's so thick that you're not able to heat it like you would, I reached out to some friends of mine, and one of them actually suggested that I put it in the oven. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen, dude, because this is an important part to the model. But I think you get the idea about cleaning up these parts. And this is the drastic, you know, not all Forge World is like this. This piece is just big. But this is what it takes with a power tool to clean it up. You know, we'll look at some other stuff here. But let's get on to washing these and try and wrap this video up before it gets too long. All right, guys, that's how we use the Dremel to cut those gates off. You know, we use caution, we wear a mask, the whole 9 yards, and it's a mess. I'm here to tell you, but I don't know of any other way of getting those parts off a model this big. This model is absolutely a monster. What we're going to look at next is washing up the parts, and this is several videos clipped together of you know, just how to get this mold release off of the models. And you know, a good old elbow grease and some you know, maybe I ended up using a sponge that had a little abrasive pad on it, which wouldn't hurt the model, and I ended up using Dawn concentrated degreaser. You know, basically dishwashing soap with degreaser in it. That seemed to work pretty well, but you know, I'll tell you that there's still a couple parts that are going to have to be worked on more because of the fact that the mold release just won't come off. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video. Let's look at some of the process of getting all the mold release off, and then we'll come and close the video out. All right, this is what Purple Power looks like. We get this at Walmart. You know, if you don't have a Walmart near you, you probably don't live in the States. So I don't know what the European equivalents would be, but this is great stuff because it's environmentally safe and it doesn't harm your plastic or your resin. So what I do is I have a big tub like this, and I put the pieces in just like I put these pieces in there, and then I'm just gonna blip 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 and put the Purple Power right on top, and I'm let it sit here for probably a day or two, and then I'll come back and actually hit it with the water, the lukewarm water, with the soap, and usually it comes off. Sometimes it's, you know, I've had some Forge World models, man, that we had to soak them for a while and actually put them out in the sun to get them to release the get the mold release off. And these were Horus Heresy Praetor models, And I didn't actually think that I would be able to save them, but we did. All right, guys, here we go. We're getting ready to clean off the mold release off of some of our parts. And for this, we're going to use some gloves because I have the parts soaking in the purple power. And so we don't get the purple power, even though it's non-toxic. Still, it's a good idea to wear gloves. We've got a brand new sponge, one kind with a little abrasive pad on the side, and then sponge on the other side. We've also got some Dawn dish soap. And what I've done is I bought the models in over here, and I'm going to wash them off and then put them over here to dry, and then we'll see what happens. You can see right there, like, there's your mold release coming off. That's exactly what that is. All that crystallized stuff. It might be some of the dried purple power, but this piece was laying on top, so the mold release has come off of other parts and everything and settled on here. So what we're going to do, real quickly, we're just going to wash that off. And there's our cat. That's Gizzy, the Wonder Cat. She gets into everything, especially if it has to deal with water. And so we'll just take our sponge, a little soap. This part is just a little tedious. I mean, it's not hard to do, but it's necessary to get it done. You got to get all that mold release off so that the paint will stick, even sometimes so that your glue will stick, because that mold release stuff is designed to keep the the part sticking to the mold, so it'll prevent the paint from sticking to your resin. And this is how we're going to do it. In a minute, we'll take a part that hasn't been soaked, and we'll see if we can get the mold release off of that just with the Dawn. These are the parts that I've sanded, and they're basically ready for assembly. Okay. All right, guys, there you go. A pile of clean resin or mold release free parts need to be dried off and put back in the hobby room. But this isn't even a third of the parts that have to be cleaned and done. So you can see this build's probably going to take a little while. There's a lot to it, but you got to do these early stages right, or else it's going to affect you when you get to assembly and painting, in that if you don't do this stage right, you'll have to stop, strip off your paint, and wash the model again, repaint, and it'll just be a big mess. So going slow in the beginning, but we're all right, guys, check this out. If you're as you can see here, look, see all this flaky stuff. Oh, there we go. All that flaky stuff right there, that's mold release. And even after being soaked in the purple power and then cleaned with the soap, it's still on there. But actually, if you look at these pieces right here, and I'm trying to get the reflection in the sun, and you can see right there to the feel that it's slick. It feels like there's oil on the surface, and you can actually see it right there. So see, this piece still has a considerable amount of mold release on it. So it's going to have to go back in the purple power to get cleaned again. Probably later this afternoon I'll scrub it real good. But imagine trying to paint on top of that. First of all, if you can see the pattern, the paint would stick on top of that, and that's what your paint would look like. Then after a while, the paint would not adhere to the resin, and it would just come right off. So you can see the mold release, and it's really important to get that stuff off. If you look here, I sanded some there, but for the most part, this looks like free of mold release. It doesn't feel slick. It looks okay. Maybe some of the seats have still a little in there. I'll have to work that over with a toothbrush. But this is a really important step of your process. This one's good. Maybe a little bit right there. So we'll wash these here again in just a little bit and then press on. All right, guys, that's it for the video. I'm gonna try, this one ran a little long, about 20 minutes, and in the future, the videos will probably be broke up into 15-minute segments, and we're gonna go almost step by assembly step. We're gonna look at sanding, we're gonna look at filling gaps, we're gonna look at the assembly, how the model goes together. We're gonna look at, eventually, once we get the whole model together, how the heck are we gonna base this thing so we could use it in a game? And then after all that, how are we gonna paint it? So you can expect quite a number of videos out of this series, and it's gonna play out over the next few months. I was under the misconception that I could probably build this thing in a weekend, and that is just not true. First of all, this model's too expensive to just slap together. And if you did that, the first time that it got bumped, it would probably break into a billion pieces. So we're gonna take our times, we're gonna put this thing together right, and I hope you can enjoy the journey with me. It's a lot of fun to build these things. So do me a favor, click a thumbs up on the review below. Give me a subscription to my channel if you haven't subscribed already. And then, if you feel the need, leave a comment and, share me with your friends so that they can enjoy this build also. I can let you know in the future, we've got several other Tau Forge World things coming up, such as we've got a tiger shark, we've got an orca, I've got several of the riptides from Forge World. And imagine when Forge World makes that new big gargantuan Tau Forge World suit, we're going to put that one together too. So there's lots more to come from the 19th Legion. So signing off now. See you next time from the 19th Legion.